Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. American Pickers Robbie Wolfe and Jersey John ripped seller off. American Pickers fans are accusing Robbie Wolfe and Jersey John Chalet of trying to rip off a seller. The History Channel has been sharing some throwback clips of the show leading up to season 26. However, fans have noticed that Robbie and John lowballed one seller. Here's what happened. Fans accuse Robbie and John of ripping seller off. The crew on American Pickers knows a good find when they see one. In a recent clip shared by the network, Robbie Wolfe and Jersey John came across a vintage fire siren. The pair were meeting with a seller to look at a 1924 Ford Model T. Unfortunately, the seller wasn't interested in parting ways with the Model T. It was a family heirloom. So the two pickers started looking around at what else the seller had to offer in his shed. Jersey John eyed a huge vintage siren. He said that he couldn't wrap his head around the size of it. He and Robbie dragged the cast iron piece out. Immediately, they took note of the siren's early electric motor. John guessed it was likely from the 1920s. The seller gave them more details about the piece. He shared that his father was a volunteer firefighter. The siren came from the Richland Township Fire Hall. John admitted that there would be a limited number of people interested in buying such an item. He offered the seller $250 for it, noting that it would only hail $50 at the scrapyard. Then the seller countered his offer with $400. They met in the middle at $300. However, after the American Pickers clip was shared on Facebook, many people thought the duo cheated the seller. "Hey guys, let's rip them off," one person commented. Similar pieces have been sold for over $1,000, and other smaller fire sirens are priced around $850. American Pickers returns in October. Another recent throwback clip got the attention of fans too. Mike Wolfe and Jersey John went to California in search of some unique pieces. As they were poking around a seller's lot, they spotted something amazing. There was a motorcycle up on a pole. The pair wanted to have the seller take it down so they could get a look at it. In response, the seller said he'd only take it down if they made an offer. This 4-cylinder motorcycle is one of the rarest motorcycles in the world, John said in a confessional. "We're not gonna walk away from this chassis on a pole." Mike Wolfe asked Jersey John if he was interested in the bike. He responded, "It's amazing that we had an opportunity to even find this bike in the wild. You just don't see these things. It's surreal." Clearly hesitant on the deal, Mike offered $10,000, and John offered another $2,000. They wound up walking away with the motorcycle for $12,200. It was a crisp autumn morning as Robbie Wolfe and Jersey John pulled into the driveway of a small, weather-worn farmhouse in the heart of New England. The location was remote, the type of place where treasures tended to get buried under decades of dust and neglect. The house was surrounded by acres of farmland dotted with rusty tractors, broken-down barns, and faded signs, each promising the possibility of long-forgotten Americana and a few hidden gems. Robbie, known for his charm, and Jersey John, known for his keen eye, were ready for the thrill of the hunt. As they hopped out of the van, they were greeted by the property owner, an elderly man named Clyde, who looked to be in his 70s. Clyde wore suspenders over a worn flannel shirt and had a mischievous glint in his eye. His handshake was strong, revealing calloused hands from years of hard work on the land. "So I hear you two fellas are looking to buy?" Clyde asked, peering at them from under his cap. "I got plenty of old stuff here, but it ain't cheap. Got sentimental value, you see." Robbie exchanged a quick look with Jersey John. Both could sense the man's pride and attachment to his belongings. While they knew it would take some persuasion, they also sensed that Clyde was eager to make a deal, as long as he felt it was on his terms. "Absolutely, Clyde," Robbie said, flashing a warm smile. "We're not here to take advantage of you. We just want to give some of these treasures a good home." Clyde nodded and led them over to a dilapidated barn filled with items that hinted at a rich history. As the trio stepped inside, the air filled with the smell of aged wood and rusted metal. Jersey John immediately spotted a set of antique tools, tucked away in a corner, and nudged Robbie, his eyes gleaming. "Those look like some beauties, Clyde," Jersey John said. "Mind if I take a closer look?" "Go ahead, but don't go getting your hopes up. Those belong to my father, and he prized them dearly. I was thinking they might fetch a good price, though. Been sittin' here for years, so they're yours if the offer's right, Clyde replied, crossing his arms. Jersey John began inspecting the tools, his practiced hands moving over each piece with the reverence of a collector. Robbie was already calculating the value in his mind, estimating how much they could resell the tools for back at the shop. But he knew that Clyde would drive a hard bargain if he sensed their eagerness. Well, these are definitely valuable, no doubt about it, Robbie said. But given the condition and all, we're looking at some restoration costs. These need a lot of love to get them back to tip-top shape. Clyde raised an eyebrow, his gaze shifting from Robbie to Jersey John. He could sense the strategy forming, but he was not about to let them get away with lowballing him. He adjusted his suspenders and leaned against a dusty old workbench, looking Robbie straight in the eye. Now I've seen you fellas on TV, and I know a thing or two about these tools, Clyde said, his voice as sharp as the rusty edges of the old saw hanging on the wall. I'd be willing to let these go, but only for the right price. I'm thinking $500 for the set. Robbie and Jersey John exchanged a quick glance. They both knew that, even with the state the tools were in, they could easily flip them for at least double that. But Robbie wasn't about to settle. He gave a thoughtful nod, playing along with Clyde's expectations. 500, huh? Well, you're right. These are nice. But they're not exactly pristine. We were thinking maybe $300, considering the work they'll need. Robbie countered, keeping his tone light. Clyde looked contemplative, his lips pressing into a thin line. After a pause, he gave a reluctant nod. All right, I suppose $400 would be fair. Robbie hesitated for a moment, pretending to deliberate, before nodding. You've got yourself a deal, Clyde. $400 it is. With that, the handshake was made, and the tools were carefully packed into the van. Jersey John couldn't help but feel a bit of a pang as he watched Clyde's face. There was a flicker of regret, a momentary hesitation, but it passed quickly, replaced with a look of acceptance. As they continued through the barn, Clyde led them to a dusty corner cluttered with old signs, gas pumps, and rusted metal parts. Hidden among the junk was a pristine enamel Coca-Cola sign from the 1930s, its colors still vibrant despite the years of grime. Jersey John's eyes lit up. He knew this sign alone could fetch a small fortune from collectors. This here is just some junk I was planning to haul off to the dump, Clyde said, waving dismissively at the pile. Robbie's heart skipped a beat, but he kept his cool, casually stepping closer to inspect the junk. Mind if we take a look at that old sign there? Robbie asked, nodding toward the Coca-Cola piece. Clyde shrugged. Sure, I guess. If you want it, it'll cost ya. But I was thinking maybe it'd make a good target for some shootin' practice out back. The thought made Jersey John flinch internally, but he kept his expression neutral. The sign, with its vintage logo and vibrant colors, could easily go for over $1,000 in the right market. But Robbie saw an opportunity to downplay its worth to negotiate the price. Well, it's a bit banged up, Robbie said, gesturing to a few minor scratches on the enamel. I'm not sure how many people would be interested in something like this, especially with the damage. Clyde scratched his head, looking slightly perplexed. Huh. Well, if it ain't worth much, I suppose I'd let it go for $100. The offer was almost too good to be true, but Robbie didn't want to scare Clyde off by accepting too eagerly. He pretended to think it over, glancing at Jersey John, who played along by giving a slow nod of approval. Well, all right then, Robbie said, reaching into his pocket. $100 it is. With the deal made, they loaded the sign into the van, doing their best to hide their excitement. As they shook hands with Clyde one last time, he seemed satisfied, if not a bit wistful, as he watched them drive away with his beloved heirlooms. Once out of earshot, Jersey John couldn't contain his excitement any longer. Did you see the look on his face when we got that sign? He had no idea what he was sitting on. Robbie chuckled, shaking his head. Sometimes people just don't know the value of what they've got. But hey, we're giving those pieces a new life. Someone's going to appreciate that sign a lot more than Clyde did, that's for sure. But as they drove away, a slight pang of guilt lingered in the air. They'd made out well, no doubt about it, but as they looked back at the farmhouse disappearing in the rearview mirror, both men wondered if they'd been too clever for their own good. It was all part of the game, they told themselves. A game where some walked away with cash and others walked away with stories.